Hi, everybody. Welcome back to episode 3 of the Daily Adler podcast, where we're interviewing Adlerians or people who are passionate about individual psychology. And today we are so lucky to have Pascale Brady with us. It's really nice to meet you, Pascale.
Nice to meet you all too. Very happy to be here. Thank you.
Great. Yeah. So, we start off these interviews by just being curious about how you became an Adlerian or how you came to understand sort of the ideas of individual psychology, maybe where you encountered them first.
Really? You want to know? Because that's going to take the entire 30 minutes. No, I'm joking. I'm French. I have an MBA. I used to do international sales and marketing. And then I met my American husband. I came to the United States. And then we had babies and had my first kid 27 years ago. And that ages me. And I thought I was going to be a great mom because I'd been wanting to be a mom for like 25 years. And then it was a horrible mom. And I heard about these parenting classes in my neighborhood, and my French friends all said, "You got to go. We don't have anything like that in France. It's going to be." So I just run there. 27 years later, I'm still there. It's PEP, the Parent Encouragement Program, an affiliate of NASAP. And that's where I met Adler. And I fell head over heels in love with him right away. And I decided to actually change my career as a result of taking these parenting classes. So I'm a certified parent educator with PEP, but that's just on the side. But I became a life coach. So I went to a traditional coaching school, became a certified life coach, started my business. But I don't tell anybody this because nobody really knows what it means. But I'm an Adlerian coach. And what that means is it informs how I apprehend people. I watch their movement, and how hopefully help them a little bit. So,
Yeah.
so
Okay. In a world where insurances want to hear you're doing CBT and stuff, right? Adlerian ideas are always sort of percolating in the
yes,
background. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. And we understand that the courage to be imperfect is sort of this concept that sticks out to you. So, do you just want to say a bit about why that's maybe your favorite Adlerian concept?
It's my favorite because I think it's so quirky. So I heard it for the first time in those parenting classes when I was taking them some 20x years ago. And like, seriously, guys, what are you talking about? You have to be courageous to be imperfect? Like what, you want us to be slackers in life? Like like give us permission to be the bad parents that we are? What are you talking about? So I thought it was a ridiculous concept, especially because I grew up and was raised in a very perfectionistic family. Both parents were pretty perfectionistic, and in a culture where you're supposed to be doing your best, a culture and a time maybe.
Mhm.
You're supposed to be doing your best, and less than your best is like not acceptable. And plus, I have a little bit of a birth order story.
Mhm.
I am the firstborn in my family of three, but I'm in fact the firstborn and the secondborn because my brother, who was born 18 months before me, died at birth. And my
Mm.
parents had the great idea of giving me the same name as him. So I'm Pascal with an E, but he was Pascal without an E. So I'm not just one firstborn, I'm firstborn and secondborn, and not just a girl, I'm a boy and a girl. I'm one for two. So
Mm.
let me tell you that perfectionism of a firstborn is nothing like the perfectionism of a first and a secondborn and one for two.
Right.
So anyway, so all of this context made me particularly sensitive and sensitive to being a perfectionist. And so when I heard this for the first time, I thought, like, what they ridiculous. And then with the help of my teachers over the course of the classes, and then also with the help of my kids, because nothing like having children than to make you really really notice how imperfect you are. I learned what that meant little by little, but I still find it a very very surprising way of putting things in words. You know what I mean? And so if
Mhm.
I talk to one of my coaching clients or a friend about this, I really have to go out of my way to explain it to them. It's just a very, what's the word I'm looking for? Unnatural,
Mhm.
it's not intuitive,
Mhm.
non-intuitive concept.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, and I like that concept too as well. I've used it with clients like who have perfectionistic tendencies. Like had one client, she had to score 100% in all of her tests and all of her assignments. I said, I want you to have the courage to be imperfect. I want you to make a 90 on your next test. And you could just see how anxiety provoking that statement was
Right.
for her, you know.
I'm
And
getting
so
palpitation just listening to
yeah,
you.
and so And she couldn't do it. We came back next time. I said, "How'd you do on the test?" She said, "I made 100." So it's you're right. It's a jarring statement, is it? Isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Shay, I know you had some questions. Anything you want to pick Pascal's brain about?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of your newsletter, and you have such a way of writing that's really inspiring, and I really find that compassion is something that leads you. I was curious about one of your earliest recollections where you saw compassion modeled, and it kind of struck that for you.
Wow, I've never had that question asked. Hold on one sec. Let me just close my eyes and think back. I'm not prepared for this. So
Sorry, that was
can you
That's all right.
so
That's what we
specific.
want.
um let's see. I have to just let go of the ones that I have in my mind already that I've already done, and none of them are compassion based.
Hmm.
Uh, you know, I yes, no, it's not compassion.
Hmm.
I don't
Interesting.
have one. The
Okay.
one that came up for me was one that was more social interest oriented. So
Oh.
it was like um, when we were little, we were in a very traditional model where dad was working, mom was staying at home with the kids and was doing, the house chores. And she was always involving us. And we would love, doing the cleaning with her and the cooking with her. And so that early recollection is really all about helping her with the task and doing it with her and feeling really important through that task. But it's not really compassion, it's more
Hmm.
contribution.
What would you
Hmm.
say drew you to compassion? Because you lead with such compassion. I think it was in February you had written about seeing a homeless man. And that was such a moving experience, and it moved you, it sounds like. But you talked about the importance of compassion. What struck that for, or what led you to lead with compassion?
Mm. Such a good question, man. I just was not prepared for this. And I don't know where this came from. I think, okay, so maybe there's that. So I think I'm super sensitive. Come from a family where there's quite a lot of sensitivity. So I think I'm very sensitive, and I grew up in an environment again where 60s France, very authoritarian,
Hmm.
and so punishment, yelling, belts. And French culture is a very Latin culture where people speak loudly, yell a lot,
Hmm.
argue a lot. The conflict is a very strong French value. French really enjoy conflict and yell a lot. So when I go back to France now and I'm at the supermarket, I can't believe how everybody is just screaming at each other and parents are screaming at kids. And because I'm a very sensitive person, I think I really just I put up with it because that's what I grew up with. But I think that when I started really learning about there's a different way and there's a better way and the way of love and of compassion and of being kind, of kindness, loving kindness, um, and loving kindness, being kind and firm in our parenting classes, right?
Hmm.
And the meta meditation, loving kindness, all of this stuff, I think really just resonate with me deeply, deeply, deeply. And well, then there's my personal story that I don't know if we want to go there, but I had a kid who had very serious health issues for many, many
Hmm.
years, and so that was 10 years of caregiving. And then my husband got cancer for 3 years and died. So I
Hmm.
think that I also was confronted with a number of challenges that really, again, sensitized me to the world of pain and suffering.
Hmm.
And through my work, I'm the challenge coach and I help people with their really big life challenges. And so I am hearing, and then there's the background of the world right now, as we all know, that's just
Hmm.
not particularly pretty right now. And so all of this has increased my intolerance for pain and suffering. And so, so I think it's kind of like a snowball kind of thing in a positive way of developing that love and kindness and compassion as a way of life.
And to me, that sounds like social connectedness.
Yeah.
Exactly. Oh, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. And so to me, it sounds like compassion and social connectedness are the same for you. Maybe you just use a different term or you think of it differently, but to me, it seems the same.
Mm.
Right. Yes, absolutely. And yes, it is. You're right to make that connection. It's
Hmm.
definitely the Adlerian connection of contribution and wanting to be
Hmm.
of service and
Hmm.
wanting to help others. And you can't do that if you're kind of like
Hmm.
resisting and not
Hmm.
liking and having judgments and opinions. You know, you
Hmm.
can only really be of service if you kind of let go of all that nastiness and you just embrace people.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And is there room, given what you've experienced, to extend some of that compassion inwards?
Oh, yes. Yes, absolutely. Well, I'm also a very big proponent of self-care and
Mhm.
you can't really help others if your cup is empty and you got to take care of yourself first. So absolutely, absolutely. And I don't think, I mean, um, what's going on in the world is so painful that I don't think that if I didn't have these self-care practices, I just don't know how I'd be standing still, like probably millions of other people, but
Hmm. Hmm.
so for sure.
Hmm.
What are some of the things that you do to care for yourself?
I have I have many routines. So I start my day with a whole lot of prayers, mantras, physical kind of exercises, and then I go to the gym at 5 o'clock in the morning every morning, and I work out for an hour and a half every day. I walk in the woods every day. I'm in nature. I hug trees. I have I have the Buddha view of we're all one, and so I care for animals and insects and work in my yard and mindfulness practice, meditation practices, um, and social connections a lot. Being with friends. So really making sure that all those basic elements of self care are taken care of on a regular basis, on a daily basis, basically.
And I don't want to belabor a point, but it sounds like all that global stuff is still social connectedness, is still compassion.
One
I
hundred
mean,
percent.
because here you're being compassionate for insects, animals, trees. It seems like it's all interconnected for you. It sounds
Yeah.
pretty cool.
I was devastated last year. Was it last year or 2 years ago? I found this new insect on my desk, on
Hmm.
my deck. I'm sorry, on my deck. And I've never seen it before. I'm like, where have I been? I'm 61 years old. How come I've never seen this before? And it's this beautiful thing. And it you might have heard about it. It's a spotted lanternfly. I don't know where
Oh,
you
those
guys
are
are, and I
pretty.
don't know if you have them.
Uh-oh.
But
Hmm.
it's just like, not only is it beautiful but on top of that, I look at it and I photograph it, and it jumps, and it's even more beautiful underneath. And I'm like, so I research it, and then I learn it's a pest, and you got to
Hmm.
kill them when you see them. And it's just like it's impossible. Which like I cried. I literally
Hmm.
cried. How could you do this?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Anyway,
Yeah,
Okay.
invasives are tricky. A positive from that, bees, I keep bees and we can edit this out. But they just recently started making, with the spotted lanternfly, it puts off a sugar when
yes,
it rings a tree. And the
yes,
bees use that. And birds are finally starting to eat them. And so there is an answer to the invasives. It just takes, the
time,
ecosystem a
right,
while because it's
That's
right,
also
it.
right.
connected.
Oh,
That is so important, Shay. I love that. That something invasive is actually not. It's
Yeah,
needed. It's needed,
yeah,
isn't it?
yeah,
Wow, that's cool.
Nature is pretty smart.
it
They
is.
figure things out.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I wanted to
um,
pivot a little bit because you also speak German. Do you prefer to read Adler in German or do you prefer to read in English?
No, in English, and German is my second language. It's my mother tongue. So mom didn't speak any French when I was born. So it's definitely as my first language. But then my parents said, I grew up in Paris, and my parents said, "Oh, you speak German fluently. You don't need to take it in school." That was a big mistake, because you don't just because you speak a language doesn't mean you can actually read it, or
Hmm.
there's all these different layers of learning languages. So I'm not really that fluent in German, and Adler is not that easy to read, and German is not that easy to read. Period. So
Hmm.
definitely English.
Okay.
any favorite Adlerian books that you would recommend to somebody?
Well, yes, but I can't tell you because you're going to think I'm not very smart.
No, no.
Should I go get it? Where is
Please.
it?
Oh,
That's in English. That's in French.
oh, you
Oh,
read in
actually, I've
French too?
got two. This one is one. It's by
Mm,
Eva Dreikers, right? The introduction. And you know, the reason why I fell in love with Adler head over heels is because I had always been, since I was a kid, I was interested in philosophy and psychology, but mostly philosophy. And you know, you study Marx and Kant and all these guys, and you can't understand anything. Like it's like, and certainly you can't live by that because it's so complicated. And then you find Adler, and it's like, oh, this makes sense, and I can actually remember it, and I can actually explain it to somebody else. And so those books that are so thin and just really are enough to explain really all the basics of Adlerian theory
mhm.
are, you know, to me they're fantastic. There's another one by right here, Zivit Abramson in Israel, Basic
Mm,
Concepts, and it's also incredibly thin, and it's rich
mhm,
and incredible. And then right now I'm in a book group where we read. Hold on, I got to go get it because I can't remember her name. Lydia Sicher. Don't know if you've seen this one. Lydia Sicher.
mm,
The collected works of Lydia Sicher, an Adlerian perspective. Now that is actually meaty. But it's not just, it's a little bit like Adler. It's not just her writings, it's also compilation of recaps of talks that she did and workshops that she did, etc. And it's incredibly rich, and she is actually talking about Adler stuff and like not criticizing it, but she has opinions, and she makes point, you know. It's very, very cool. Highly recommend.
Great. That's why I love this question because I'd never heard of that book. So now we
yeah.
have a few Amazon orders to make.
Yeah, I saw that there's a book study of her work, and I'd never heard of her before. I saw that posting as well.
Mm.
And Abraham, you said the Abraham's from Israel,
Yes.
so that provides a little bit different perspective on Adlerian theory because of the culture,
Not
or
not
no?
really.
Okay.
I don't think so. I mean, Zivit, I don't know if you've ever met her, but she teaches at
Mhm.
ICASI also.
Oh, okay.
And the Israelis are just like incredibly astute and in depth and
Hmm.
detail and perfectionists in theory, but in a good way, you know, just like
Hmm.
very, very, how do I say this? Strict, demanding, you know, calling
Hmm.
forth of the
Hmm.
theory and of how to live the theory. And so I
Hmm.
really appreciate that.
Well, and that's interesting because I asked him if there was a cultural difference. He said, no, not really. And that's one of the things I really like about Adlerian theory is it's works in any culture. I mean,
Absolutely.
because it's so phenomenological, it depends upon the way the person understands their own experience. And so I love that you said that. Thank you.
You know, it's interesting because right after this call, I'm actually going to Washington, D.C., and I'm on an intercultural panel. So, one of the things I do is I do intercultural coaching and intercultural
Mm,
trainings. And so, I'm on an intercultural panel where we're going to discuss how do intercultural teams work best together? How do intercultural leaders help their teams to work better together? And I was very insistent on saying, why is culture so personal? Why do people take things so personally? Why? And they removed that question because we don't have time for it. But but because it all goes back to the human, and all humans are just the same everywhere on the planet. And so that's why I love Adlerian theory, because it is completely universal. It has nothing to do. I mean, not that culture isn't a thing, and it doesn't
mm,
actually have a big impact and matters in teams and organizations, etc. Um, but I mean, it could be the culture with your spouse, you know, the
mhm,
person that lives in your house. It can be culture with your neighbor. It doesn't necessarily have to be a country culture necessarily.
mhm,
It's two
mhm,
humans with their own private logics, and they
mhm.
just have different private logics.
Yeah,
Yep.
anytime two people are talking, it's a cross-cultural exchange, no
Exactly.
matter who the two people are. Yeah.
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
never thought that the family constellation could be its own sort of culture.
Hmm.
Right.
Well,
Right.
okay, so this is a fun one we like to ask. If Adler was, say, he hopped on this Zoom call with us right now and said, Pascal, you're able, I'm going to give you one question, or is there anything you'd like to say to me? Is there anything you'd sort of like to pick his brain about or thank him for?
Oh my God, do I ever think about that all the time? Yes. What are we doing about the world? Like, how do we help? How do we help what's going on? How do you So I'm just going to go on a rant. Is that okay?
Okay, sure.
So I've always thought this ever since I was little. I think I'm kind of an old soul, is that the humans don't learn anything. Humans keep repeating the same patterns over and over
Hmm.
and over again. And there's this podcast. I wish I remembered names. Sorry, I'm pathetic with that. I can send it to you later, but there's this podcast. He's a British guy, and it's the fall of civilizations. It's called
Hmm.
the fall of civilization. So he's a British historian, and he's written a book, and he's made a podcast out of it. And he goes through every civilization since the beginning of time, and he tells the whole story of every civilization. So you can imagine, like, some of them are 4 hours long, right? The podcast, just one civilization. And you realize humans just keep doing the same thing over and over again. And who does the thing that creates the fall? It's those people, usually guys, that have mental health issues and egos and too much testosterone and I don't know what else, but certainly no social interest and no compassion and no loving kindness and no social interest, no Gemeinschaftsgefühl, zero. How do you break that cycle from happening?
Hmm.
That's what I would ask.
Paul Cooper,
Yes.
that's who it is. Okay, I just
Yeah.
looked it up while we were talking.
Yeah.
Hmm. And so I missed that last part because I'm sorry, I spaced out a
Sure,
bit.
no
What's
problem.
that last sentence you said? That sounded really important. I want to be
Well,
sure.
I would ask Adler, how do you break the cycle
Yeah.
of humans, of those humans? And I know how you do parenting education, and you try to get
Hmm.
Trump's parents into the room, to
Hmm.
take the class. But
Hmm.
it's Linda Jessup, who's the founder of PEP, is my mentor and a
Hmm.
woman I highly respect, and a very knowledgeable Adlerian. And she and I would have arguments. My perspective was more than half of all humans are bad. And she says,
Hmm.
no, 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 all humans are good. And she
Hmm.
again taught me, like she did with the courage to be imperfect, we're all neutral at birth. And then
Hmm.
depending on our family constellation and our, how we grow up, etc., our private logic, we go one way or we go the other way. So it's neutral at the beginning.
Hmm.
Um, but to this point, I wonder, when I see what's going on and I see this cycle being repeated, it just seems like if you believe in evil, it just seems like it always wins in the end, and it just
Hmm.
drives me crazy.
Hmm. Hmm.
It can be disheartening. I think Adler, I'm so inspired by what he says about education, that if every
Hmm.
teacher was trained in psychology, we wouldn't need therapists, we wouldn't need psychologists. We would have children that were taught emotional intelligence from a young age. And I think that
Hmm.
it's troubling to see a few, because, like you said, there's an archetype that tends to drag everyone into war, into conflict, into things that are really maladaptive and don't serve others. So I think
Right.
people need to learn social interest, but I think it has to be taught. And I love that you're part of
Absolutely.
an overall
Hmm.
initiative that helps with education, because that is
Hmm.
so vital. I think if people
Right.
know better, they can do better.
Yep.
Hmm.
Exactly.
And it's curious that you said that because, Adler, his theory was about power, and then he goes into World War One and comes out thinking, oh, it's not about power. It's more about cooperation, social interests, those types of things. And so I think he would answer your question like he did it after World War One. I think that's what he would do. I don't know. I can't speak for Adler, but that's a
And so
great.
what is it that he said? He said it's not about
The,
power.
yeah, because when he went into World War One, his theory was about power. Then after that, he all the experiences of World War One, he's like, no, it's about cooperation, about social interest, about
Mhm.
working together, and you answered the question for Adler. It was we need to be involved with each other in a positive way. Man, I like how you brought that around, Pascal, about what's going on now. What can we do now? That's so Adlerian. What can we do now? Make it happen. Oh, I
Mhm.
love that.
The question a lot of us are asking, right?
Hmm.
And so, Pascal, say somebody is convinced that parenting and education and these sort of pro-social, norms and behaviors can be formed through something like your coaching program or the teaching you're doing. Where could they find you? Is it online? Your newsletter?
All of the above, yes. So parents can go to PEP, the Parent Encouragement Program. So it's pepparent.org. And we teach classes online, and we have workshops and live webinars and a whole library of webinars. So
Mm.
for parenting education, that's where you go. And then in terms of individual coaching, one-on-one coaching or group coaching, I do group coachings as well. I have one that's coming up called Courage in Practice in a couple of weeks. And, you can just find my website, thechallengecoach.com. That's where everything that I do lives. And of course, social media. And you can sign up for my newsletter on my website and things like that. So,
You said
Okay.
the challenge coach?
yes, the challenge
Okay.
coach. Yeah.
3 words. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All
Mm-hmm.
right.
How about we'll do our best to have some links in the description here. People can go directly to find you.
Sounds good.